What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lineman Life podcast. Now, start a little bit late, not gonna lie. Try to change it up a little bit. I feel like going in the afternoon around this rush hour time is more of a sweet spot. Just feel like it's a little bit more, gives a little bit more of a opportunity for my audience to hear these things on the ride home, listen to my podcast, hear about things that I have to say. But it does take a little bit of an adjustment to get these things going right. So for me, a little bit late. Sorry about that. But we're going to move right into it. Appreciate you guys for being here in this podcast. We're going to be talking about a number of things. Obviously, first and foremost, congratulations to the winners of the NFC and AFC conference championship games. As we all know, the Super Bowl 54 is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. So big shout out to the Chiefs and the 49ers for getting in to the big game. Special shout out to my offensive line coach, Andy Heck, as he is the offensive line coach right now in Kansas City for the Chiefs. Sent him a text after they won that game, congratulating them. Couldn't be happier for Coach Heck. He's done a lot of hard work in the NFL for a very long time. And now that work has paid off, and he's going to the big game. So that's awesome for him. Yeah, that ATL traffic, huh, Mike Jackson? But the weekend's games. I mean, wow. I guess on one end, we look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and you see that these guys were down 10 points twice in the first half. And these guys just managed to continually, run it back, and they come back and just take complete control of the game. I watched the game start to finish. Same thing with the Niners game. Although that game I kind of cut about midway through the third. But wow, these Chiefs have just shown an amazing amount of resilience. They have not folded under the pressure at any point throughout the course of this playoff run. And, they have earned the right to be in the big game. And, from coming back from double-digit deficits in the last 2 weeks in both games that they played in this playoff season, it just shows a lot of resolve within that team, and it can't be said enough as to how impressive it is that they're able to defy all the statistics that you would lean on in regard to your probability of winning, your chances of winning based on the number of points you give up, based on any turnovers that you have. They defied all of that, and were able to kick in that door and advance into the championship round, advance to the Super Bowl. And that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive thing to see. Now on the other end, the 49ers, how impressive was it in the way that they handled the Green Bay Packers? My goodness, rushing for 200 plus yards with Morissette, the running back Morissette. That cat is a Purdue alum, same as me. So boiler up, guys out there representing for the Boilermakers. Got to show love for that. But these 49ers, dominate the Green Bay Packers. Everybody said it was going to be a different game. Everybody said it was going to be a different kind of matchup with Green Bay. Green Bay's defense was supposed to be this rejuvenated defensive unit that had found their identity and were ready to put up, a real fight against these 49ers. And, come game day, we all come to find out that is not the case, that this is the same Green Bay defense that was trampled in the first meeting, and they are trampled again in the second meeting in the NFC title game. And look, it kind of, again, it's another thing that kind of defies the norms of playoff football, in that you have a team in the 49ers that, I mean, they didn't even need to pass the ball. They ran the ball for over 200 plus yards rushing. And this team just utterly, I mean, when you talk about getting smoked, the Packers got they got hickory smoked. I mean, it wasn't even close, and these guys, I mean, I'm pulling up the stats here, but geez Louise, when you talk about a team getting utterly manhandled on the defensive front, Jimmy Garoppolo threw 8 passes. He threw 8 passes. Mostert, yeah, that's his name, Raheem Mostert. He went to Purdue a few years back. Guy's been on 7 teams in the NFL, and just kept at it, kept showing the kind of determination you'd expect from a Boilermaker, and he has found a home in San Fran, and possibly could be looking at a multi-year opportunity with the 49ers. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, the guy had 29 carries for 220 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns against this Green Bay defense. I mean, it was an utter shellacking. You didn't even need to throw it, and you beat the hell. I mean, it looks like nobody even wanted to tackle this guy. I mean, he wasn't even getting touched on a lot of these runs until he was 20 some odd yards down the field. And, to me, when you're able to go into the NFC title game, have 8 passing attempts, 29 rushes from your running back for 220 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, and you mate a team like the Packers. It's saying something, right? That really is saying something. Look, it's do or die. I mean, it's do or die. This is a single elimination, and these guys, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, they just bulldozed Green Bay, bulldozed them. So Green Bay has a lot of questions that they need to answer in this offseason. I know some people are looking at Aaron Rodgers and saying, hey, it's time for them to move past Aaron Rodgers. I'm not so sure about that. But I would say that it's time to find some weapons for Aaron Rodgers, find some additional players, some additional pieces to put around him, because, that is a stunning indictment on the kind of talent that they have on offense for Green Bay, in the way that they could not get anything done. And I mean, look, at the same time, you look at some of the mistakes Aaron Rodgers made. You fumbled a snap. That's on the quarterback. I mean, that's what I was told from ever since my rookie year. If when there's a snap situation, it's usually the quarterback. So he fumbles a snap. He throws a completely. I don't know if they were just on different pages in terms of the routes that they thought that he thought his receivers were going to be running, but definitely threw some ill-advised interceptions, and there just didn't really seem like there was any hope after the second pick. It just didn't look like there was a chance for him in hell, and that was before we even got to halftime. So, congratulations to the 49ers, getting the win, getting it done, imposing themselves on the Green Bay Packers in a way that they just weren't ready for. And, hey, that's a heck of a turnaround for a franchise that a few years ago was left for dead. And these guys have, recreated themselves and created an identity of toughness, an identity of consistency for the 49ers that, we just didn't expect it to happen that fast, but they got it done. So, it's going to be interesting to see this matchup. I think this is a Super Bowl that everybody's really excited for. I think this is a Super Bowl that for the first time in years, we look at this and there is a level of excitement. This was kind of the best kind of matchup we could have hoped for. Looking back on everything with hindsight being 2020, I mean, you've got offensive firepower, you've got defensive clutchness, you've got young superstars. I mean, this is the kind of Super Bowl that we actually want. This is the Super Bowl that we actually can be excited for. I'm excited for it. So, we're definitely looking forward to it. And we'll talk about this, as we get closer to the game. We'll do more comparisons. I'm actually working on my next trench warfare video. My next trench warfare video is going to highlight the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line and how they played in their AFC title game. And I'm also going to do another video that does the same for the 49ers. So I got 2 trench warfare videos that are in the pipeline, one focusing solely on each team leading up to the Super Bowl. So be sure to look out for that. Make sure you hit that like button and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified each and every time I drop a new video. Another interesting thing that I've been keeping my eyes on, I actually was able to binge watch my way through the Killer Inside. What was it? Let me see. What was the title? Killer Inside. The Hernandez and Andrew Hernandez, right? Or Anthony Hernandez, whatever those was. Let's see. Oh Lordy. Anthony Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez, my bad. Wow, I had a brain fart there. Aaron Hernandez. I actually got a chance to watch the Aaron Hernandez docu-series yesterday, and I was able to binge through it. I'm going to be doing a review on that as well. But I do want to discuss it here on the podcast. I really felt like I had kind of forgotten about the whole Aaron Hernandez situation until I heard about this docuseries, and I got a chance to actually sit down and watch it, and got to say that not exactly what I expected. Wouldn't say it was a bad docuseries. It wasn't bad. I guess there was some things that I hadn't heard about the situation with Aaron Hernandez that there was some new details that came to light and I felt like was worthy of going into as far as discussion wise. But overall, I kind of feel like this docuseries was somewhat trying to create a sympathetic character in Aaron Hernandez. And, let's not mince words when we talk about the fact that this guy was a cold-blooded killer. I mean, the NFL will forever have to live with the fact that for probably 3 years of the time that Aaron Hernandez was a professional athlete in the NFL, superstar athlete, one of the most gifted, talented players out on the field each and every Sunday, they're going to have to live with the fact that this guy, in his off time, was out there killing people, was out there shooting people over spilt drinks, killed his best friend for what? We don't even know. I mean, this is what it was. I mean, this guy was a cold-blooded killer. And I don't see for 1 second any way that he can be a sympathetic character when you hear some of the things and when you can kind of grasp some of the tones that he was that he had when you listen to some of the jail conversations that he had over the phone with, with his agent, which I thought was a pretty scumbaggish thing to happen. Him and his agent actually joked about him getting an endorsement with Smith and Wesson, the gun manufacturer, while he's in jail. Since his agent said it's pretty hard for him to get get Nike to give him a new endorsement deal, since he's in jail, and they're laughing about that. And I guess whatever. That's I guess that's a weird joke to have an endorsement deal, but he responds in laughter in saying, yeah, well, you should probably try in Wesson. And I'm just like, what? I mean, this is ridiculous. But, again, there was a docu-series that, when you look at it, when you watch it, there are a number of things that I love. He was enabled. He was enabled the whole way through by people who were basically, acting as his handlers. He never had to, he was never brought to any kind of consequence for the things he was doing, for the behavior that he had. And, he was living a reckless life. And say what you want about his dad passing away, say what you want about his family situation with his mother. These are all tragic things and sad, yes, for sure. But he still made the choices he made. What about the countless other football players who have come from even more destitute situations than Aaron Hernandez came from, and were able to, lift themselves out of those circumstances through football, but were able to become leaders in their communities, were able to, to get past all of those many things that could have brought them down. And they never resorted to murdering people. They never resorted to shooting through people's windows because they spilled a drink on you. And I found it kind of off-putting that in this series they tried to play those items up as legitimate reasons as to why he took some of the actions that he took. And to me, that's just utter nonsense. CTE is brought into the picture. And yeah, they're saying that this guy had the most advanced stage of CTE that they have seen in anyone that was 27 years old ever. It's the most advanced that they've ever seen. Fine. Let's say that is the case. Still doesn't justify why you would murder your best friend in cold blood, be dancing and, celebrating after the fact that you killed your buddy. And, and from the security footage out of his own home, you can see that this guy was not affected in the slightest by what had just happened, what had just transpired not 10 hours earlier. He is on, and spoilers, I guess, but he is on his own home security camera footage, playing with his newborn daughter, while the guys that were his accomplices in this murder are in his pool house or in his man cave, hanging out with him. And these guys are acting as if nothing even happened. They're unfazed by the gravity of the situation and the slightest. And to me, these are the hallmark attributes of a sociopath and a psychotic individual who has no conscience. And this is what this guy was. I think there was a little bit that they didn't go deep into some of the behavior that and some of the things that I'd heard that he had done within the locker room of the New England Patriots. I think they kind of shied away from really getting into some of his behavior and antics that were going on within the locker room in New England. And also, I think that they weren't very, forthcoming about how much the University of Florida, with the enabling of his behavior, all you had from both of these organizations was the coddling of this guy left and right to make sure that he could be out on the field, to make sure that he could be a consistent asset for them in the realm of football over the kind of person that he was, or the kind of influence and the kind of behavior that he was exhibiting. That was really, these were red flags to what he was going, what the kind of violent outlashing or violent lashing outs that he was having, behind the scenes. Guys were not, they weren't trying to quell those things. They were just trying to make sure that this guy could be out on the field. And again, you look at a lot of the security camera footage that they have, not only from his home, but from like gas stations, from outsides of clubs, insides of clubs. And it's hard to really, wrap your mind around it, that this guy was like literally, he just did not have a conscience, and he was, very cold and very callous to the situations that he's alleged to have been a part of, and that he was proven to have been a part of in the killing of Odin Lloyd. I think that is one thing that, for some of the parts that I think kind of try to make him a sympathetic character within the docuseries, I think there were other parts that really did try to give you a deeper understanding of who Odin Lloyd was, which I thought that was a very good thing for this series to go to follow. It gave you a more intimate understanding of Odin Lloyd, his family, and the dynamic that they had, and the tragedy that they had to endure in finding out that this guy who they thought was family, this guy who they thought was, who they thought was just, a great friend for them, to their family in general, to find out that this guy was the one who murdered their brother, their son, and how heartbreaking that in and of itself was, on top of the tragedy of the crime, the tragedy of the complete and utter lack in regard for Odin Lloyd as a human. I mean, there's some new footage, showing how he was killed. I mean, and again, spoilers, but this guy was shot multiple times, execution style. And it was disgusting. It was really disgusting. And for me, watching this and trying to, just trying to look past some of the dramatic aspects, this was not something that, you could really look at and say, and not find the tragedy in that kind of decision making, that Aaron Hernandez decided he was going to shoot this guy. There still really isn't any reason that at least you can look at and say, we know what he did it for. As cold-blooded as it is, there's really no motive. And for me, this is another part of the docuseries that I kind of found was a bit of a reach, in that they say, oh, well, maybe Odin Lloyd found out about Hernandez's sexuality, and that is what sent Hernandez down the path that he went down. Again, even if you put that in the, even if you filled in the blank with he killed him because of his sexuality, that is still like, it still baffles the mind as to how that in any person's mind, no matter how damaged you want to say it is because of CTE, no matter how prideful or how fragmented this guy is because of the death of his father, because of the relationship with his mother, you can't look at those things there and still say that this is in any way like even a feasible justification as to why he killed this guy the way he did. But they also go into that discussion about Aaron Hernandez's sexuality. And for me, that was problematic because it appears that he was at least bisexual from as far back as middle school or high school. As far back as that, which they dive into that aspect, into those details pretty heavily. And there are some points that are made there that are valid points in regards to that culture, the culture of football, and how it does provide a harder. It is a bit of a harder. It's harder for these guys to really be honest about their sexuality. Because of the nature of the sport, because of the bravado nature of football. It'd be hard to come out, and especially, if you're looking back at, 10 years ago, it'd be hard for guys to come out and do that. I mean, I know for a fact that, there was at least one or two guys on my teams in the Jaguars that we thought, or we figured, these guys were probably gay. I mean, they interview a couple of guys, or they interviewed one offensive lineman, former offensive lineman from the New England Patriots, who was was in the closet during his time as a player, and came out after he retired, obviously. And they talk about that battle. They talk about that struggle that players have because of the culture, and how they have to kind of bury that side of themselves deep inside. And those are all legitimate points, legitimate perspectives to look at it, to look at the entire situation from, as far as it pertains to players and their sexuality within the sport. So that those were actually, very those were very important segments of the docuseries that I felt were well done, because it did speak to the truth of the situation for a lot of athletes who are gay athletes who are in the closet about it. I can understand that. And in Aaron Hernandez's situation, I believe that, yeah, there probably was some guilt there. There probably was some pressure there. But that still doesn't make you a murderer. I mean, there are guys who have held on to that side of themselves and and have come out after their careers ended. They didn't kill anybody. There are guys who came out and throughout the course of their careers and were openly gay in the NFL, and they hadn't killed anybody. So once again, you can put all of these scenarios of his life, of the troubles and the pressures from his life, from his father who was his role model dying, from him being gone, from his mother being a negligent, horrible mother. Let's make no mistake about that. She was a horrible mom. She didn't care about Aaron Hernandez at all, and he had to find a mother-like figure in a family, in a relative, in a cousin, and. Yeah. Your mom was terrible. Your dad was gone. Your mom was terrible. And, you were confused and or struggling with your sexuality. And these are all things that athletes from every sport, these are all things from athletes within football itself have had to deal with, either singularly or combined, throughout the course of their lives. and none of them have turned out to be psychotic killers. So, I think that the way that they were trying to kind of drive for this sympathetic figure or this empathetic figure in Aaron Hernandez was a bit overdone, because there's really you've crossed the line once you go into the realm of taking other people's lives. I don't think that there is anything that really justifies that. And yes, he had a complicated, difficult, tragic childhood. Nobody's arguing against that. Yes, he did have the pressures of being a gay / bi man in a extremely macho dominated football culture, as a college football player, as a high school football player, and in the NFL. But at the end of the day, he's not the only person that's ever had any one of those circumstances or combined circumstances be obstacles for him to overcome in his daily life. He is not unique in that respect at all. But what is unique is that he became a murderer. He became a murderer, and there's not really a true, I would say, there's not really a solid understanding that you can come to why. And I think that that's something that none of us are going to have. I think that's something that none of us are going to be able to really grasp that kind of personality, just simply because we're not, for the most part, 95% of us just are not that kind of person. We're not looking to kill people because we don't get things the way we want. So I think that it was a solid docuseries. I think it was a solid look at a lot of the details surrounding the case, a lot of the details surrounding the lives that were impacted. Obviously, you got to feel for his daughter, who will never, who will forever have to deal with the fact that when she wants to know about her father and about who he was as she gets older, there's going to need to be some explaining. There's going to need to be some therapy. There's going to need to be some careful handling of how that information is given to her, because it hurts me to even think about the fact that this little girl is going to learn at some point who her father really was. And that is going to take a long time to digest, to process, and to come to grips with. And, and her mother, who was Aaron Hernandez's fiance, she is going to, be responsible for being honest with her daughter. And I'm not saying that there wasn't love there. I'm not saying that there wasn't a relationship that, isn't worth talking about as she gets older and telling her daughter what life was like with Aaron. But, at some point, all of that changed. And you can hear it on some of their phone calls even, and how he gets mad at her in an instant and hangs up the phone. And, I think he just wasn't willing. He didn't come to grips with the reality of the things he had done, because he never really had to come to grips with the reality of anything he'd done up to that point. And that was just kind of the thing that I felt emboldened him to think that he could continue to do these things without consequence. And, at the end of the day, he ended up taking his own life in prison. And, that's really a tough situation. That's really a tough situation for his little girl. But also on the other end, you look at Odin Lloyd and his family. His family's been rocked by this. His family's been, destroyed by this as well. His mom will never see her son again. She will never get grandchildren from her son. And, this guy who had a life that was, full of potential, it's over with, and that in and of itself is a tragedy as well. So, it was a solid docuseries. Check it out. Go on Netflix if you have time. Check out The Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez. But I'll be doing my review for that. I'll be putting up my official review for it here in the coming days. I'm trying to knock out a couple of projects at one time, but we're going to get it done. But segueing from all of that, talking about CTE, talking about people who are just dealing with utter madness in their lives, Antonio Clown is at it once again, you guys. Antonio Brown, once again, in the headlines. What is going on with this guy? What is it? What is it? Antonio Brown is a suspect in battery probe. I mean, can we just stop it already? Can we just stop? I mean, this is another person who I feel like there needs to be an intervention. There has to be an intervention. And I don't even think it's possible anymore at this point because he's so far up his own ass that you can't even, there's not enough room for the voices of others to even penetrate his ears. But unbelievable. I think this was sometime last week, Antonio Brown, this guy gets into an altercation with his baby mama. This is his baby mama of 3 of his kids. They get into it. He humiliates her. He throws a bag of penises at her, a bag of candy penises. By the way, I heard the stock on that company that makes those has skyrocketed in the meantime. But, the police are called out to his place. He berates the police, screams at police, screams at his baby mama. And now here we are on January 21st, 2020, and they are back at it again. Says here, police are investigating a possible battery outside the home of free agent wide receiver Antonio Brown Tuesday afternoon in Hollywood. This is Hollywood, Florida. A police spokesman told ESPN that Brown is a suspect in the incident, but has not been arrested or charged as of now. There are still several police officers at the scene in front of Brown's home. Police said the case is not involved. It happened outside of Brown's home where a moving truck currently sits. Police said the incident is related to the moving truck and its workers. Oh, my God. So, Lord, this guy is, this is ridiculous. Now, I see some people are saying this is a similar situation with Hernandez. Wouldn't go that far. It's ridiculous. Make no mistake. It is ridiculous, but wouldn't go that far as to set it quite in the same realm as Aaron Hernandez. But it says here, a 911 call was placed to alert police of a possible battery, and police arrived on the scene to get more information. There is a police briefing expected at Hollywood Police Department at 7 p.m. Police describe the scene as active. Brown's home is located in a gated community in Hollywood where multiple neighbors told ESPN they've been fed up with the antics coming from the Brown home. Oh, my God. Last week, Brown's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, conditionally terminated his relationship with him until the wide receiver seeks counseling. An NFL Players Association source told ESPN. Rosenhaus wrote in the letter that the NFLPA received Thursday that he would like to work with Brown, but not until he first gets help. Earlier this month, Brown had an obscene outburst toward the police and the mother of his children that he streamed live on Instagram. The video was later picked up by TMZ. In it, he can be heard using explicit language and calling the police officers explicit names. He hasn't been on an active roster for most of the 2019 season. He was released by the Raiders after the preseason following public demands. He was active for 1 game with the New England Patriots, but was released shortly after amid sexual assault allegations. And we all know he was with Pittsburgh, and he had a recent workout with New Orleans Saints, which he later called a publicity stunt on social media. He recorded parts of that workout, made a music video, and I'm kind of curious here. Let's take a look at this guy's Instagram. Let's take a look at his Instagram. I am definitely curious. Let me see here. I guess his Instagram would just be AB. Yeah, there it is. Let me share this with you guys. Oh, what? Oh my God. What? Oh my God. All right. Yeah, I got to share this with you guys. Let me share it with you guys. So this is Antonio Brown at the current moment. Let's take a look here. Antonio Brown. Now, whoa. It appears here that whoa. Pretty sure you guys can hear that. Yes. I don't know what's he wearing, like a biker outfit? So I guess AB is now well on his way to being what is this? What is this? A rap star? Is that what it is? He's trying to be a rap star. I don't know who this Keed guy is. Keed talked to him. He's got a microphone in his hand and a microphone emoji. Nice abs. I'll give him that. He's got abs. Wish I could have abs like that. But I mean, I guess this is a show he did. Oh no, is that money on the floor? Oh my God. Say that isn't. Please tell me those are $100 bills that he's got laying all over the floor. Oh, I am disgusted that he would throw this money, hundreds, all over the floor. Where is he performing at? How did he get the gig? Who cares enough to give him a gig? And he's got this chick in what appears to be clothing. They are posing in front of, what is this? This is a scooters. They're in front of scooters and mountain bikes. But yeah, this is old. Obviously, this is before he lost his mind. This is pre-losing my mind. Antonio Brown, as we all can see here. But wow. And this is a great caption that he has on this picture. It says, "Makes no sense." Yes, it makes no sense what is going on in Antonio Brown's life. Makes no sense at all. And I really look at this, and I mean, part of me is like, CTE. It has to be some kind of, he has to be dealing with symptoms of CTE, correct? But at the same time, how much of it is just that he's a freaking idiot right now? How much of it is just that he is just so self-absorbed, so utterly conceited and stuck on his own genitalia that he just doesn't understand the damage that he's doing to his own credibility. He doesn't understand the damage that he's doing to his own, his own psyche. He's just setting himself up for disappointment. I mean, he's not a talented artist. We all know that. He's not some talented musician. He's an otherworldly talented wide receiver who will never play in the NFL again. And I just look at this and it's sad because, I was a fan of this guy before things started going south. And, I dubbed him Antonio Clown, but I thought that once he sat out long enough and realized that, when you don't have a paycheck coming in, and you don't have you don't have stability in your life, that may kind of change his perspective and kind of bring him back down to earth. It's happened numerous times with other players around the NFL. It's happened to all of us who have played on any kind of professional level in sports. There's a moment when when you mature and you realize that you need to take advantage of the situation that you're in. You need to take advantage of the gifts and the blessings that you have, because you're in a unique situation compared to other human beings. And this guy has definitely lost sight of a lot of that. And I do think that there is a part of the CTE discussion that can be brought up for some of the changes in his personality. But at the same time, you look at the history behind Antonio Brown and his behavior, and how is it that far from what you see with Aaron Hernandez? The only thing that's different is the propensity to kill and murder people. Sure. But you look at how the Pittsburgh Steelers dealt with Antonio Brown. The Pittsburgh Steelers swept a lot of his crazy business under the rug. They coddled him and created an environment that kept him from seeing consequences for a lot of the things he was doing. While we never really got to see it from a public perspective, behind the scenes, he was causing all kinds of hell in Pittsburgh that they were fighting tooth and nail to keep from breaking to the public. And once he left Pittsburgh, obviously, we now know that type of thing was going to be on full display for the world to see. And it has been ugly. It's been ugly. I mean, you're seeing this guy's whole world unravel. We're seeing his whole world unravel day by day. It's getting worse. And, I don't know that there's anybody who can really intervene, and there can't be a real intervention into what can be done to help this guy at this point, outside of he himself realizing and recognizing his situation for what it is, and seeking help to try and redirect his trajectory as a person who is clearly going off the deep end. And I mean, like he said here, makes no sense. Makes no sense, because it doesn't make any sense that this guy would ultimately put his entire well-being, his entire career, and everything around it in jeopardy. And I see here, Driving Mayhem says that the girl in the picture is the new girlfriend, Stephanie Acevedo. She was a talent signed by Lil Wayne. She had an affair with him before moving on to AB. Her father is imprisoned for involvement with drug cartels. I'm not surprised at anything that you said in that comment there, Driving Mayhem. And I'm, go figure, right? These are the kind of people he wants to be around. This is the kind of environment that he feels like he thrives in. And, pride comes before the fall, right? I mean, all these things he's doing, throwing money all over this stage. You don't have a job, bro. You don't have income. Everything right now is just negatives. You're just pulling away from your account, and every move that you make, you're spending money. So your money is going. It's going. It's draining. It's draining and it's draining. It's draining each and every day. The more things we see him doing, the more outlandish he's acting. I mean, how could you toss money? Look at this. This is nonsense. Look at the ground. Look at the ground of that stage. I mean, if I'm this guy, I'm making sure my security is picking up every single last one of those bills, putting them in a box, and bringing it back with me. I'm not losing a single one of those hundreds. This cat is, I don't know what this is. Says, thank you to everyone who came out to my first show last night. It was a blast. A-B blast. I mean, wow. Look at some of these guys. Who is this cat? Primetime CJ85. Oh, congrats. Congrats on what? What are you congratulating them for? Oh my gosh. This guy is, I mean, whatever. So Antonio Brown is, that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing right now. If he can be successful with it, hey, if it can make you the 10 plus million a year that you were making as a football player, then I will, I'll gladly say, hey, it's working for him. Then keep on doing what you're doing. More power to you. Something tells me that's not going to be the case. Something tells me that the only attention he's receiving right now because of this is because of the sideshow of it all. The sideshow of him as a football player who has wrecked his career. He has now put himself in a situation where, the only way that he can keep himself relevant is to continue the sideshow. And continue to, be as off the wall as he can to try and keep his name in the headlines. And I agree with a lot of the sentiment of people in here. They say, look at what Marshawn Lynch said. Marshawn Lynch said, and this will go down as one of the greatest football quotes of the last 10 years. He said, look after your mentals, look after your chicken. And we know for one thing, from what we can see, we can tell you that Antonio Brown is not looking after his mentals, and Antonio Brown is not looking after his chicken, because he's throwing it on the stage for people to grab up. They're going to be eating his chicken for the foreseeable future as he tosses money on these stages night in and night out. And his mentals can't be good, because if he had to choose between being AB the rapper and AB the football player, he would choose to be AB the football player. We all know that. If he could choose between being on the team and being on the stage, jumping around like a jigaboo, then I would gather to guess that he would rather be on the football field playing with the team. So protect your mentals and protect your chicken, because that's what beast mode says we need to do. And AB is not doing either one of those right now. And I just hope that we don't hear about this guy in the near future doing something stupid that puts himself in an even tighter bind and makes things 10 times more destructive, to the point that, we end up watching a docuseries in a few years about the life of Antonio Brown, past tense. That would be tragic as well. But that is going to be that's going to be the show. I appreciate you guys for being here on the Lineman Life podcast. Like I said, I got a new trench warfare video, two new trench war videos that I'm getting ready to put out. One on the Chiefs and their offensive lines performance in the AFC Championship game, and one on the 49ers and their offensive line's dominance in their run game against the Green Bay Packers. Make sure you have the bell notifications hit on my channel so that you're notified when I do drop those, and also look out for my review of The Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez, that Netflix special that's going to be coming here soon as well. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Instagram is at Chukwu, CHUKWU. My Twitter is at Chukwu77, CHUKWU77. And you can also find my podcast on primetimesportstalk.com, as well as here on my channel, Uche Waneri, on YouTube. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here on the Lineman Life podcast, and I will catch you guys on the next one this Thursday. We're going to do it at the same time. Let's say 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I will catch you guys then. Peace.